Welcome to Second Take, the show that focuses on the issues behind the news. All eyes are set on the August 30th deadline when the long-awaited Bus Rapid Transit, or BRT system, around Johannesburg slips into gear. It will be the first system of its kind in the country and promises a departure from the public transport that South Africans have become used to. With me in the studio is senior contributing editor Irma Venter to tell us more. Irma, welcome to Second Take. What is a BRT system and how is it different from using a minibus taxi or a train, for instance?
We have a specialised bus running in a specialised lane or a dedicated lane stopping at a dedicated station. If we take, for example, Oxford Road and Rosebank, let's say it's 4 lanes, 2 lanes, traffic in each direction. Now the bus system will probably take up the 2 middle lanes, and it will be specially made for this bus to stop and drive, and all other traffic will be relegated to the outside lane. So it's a very specialised, very dedicated bus public transport system. Now what makes that different, for example, from a minibus taxi is that in South Africa, often when you get into a minibus taxi and you're going somewhere, you have to wait till that taxi is filled up to capacity. The BRT bus will leave at, every 5 minutes there will be a bus, it will leave at that, whether it's full or not, it will depart from that station. Also, minibus taxi, there's an incentive for taxi drivers often to overload and to speed, because, for example, they have to deliver 600 Rand to the taxi owner. Now what that means is if I overload a little bit and I'm a taxi driver, or if I do a few more trips, then it's probably safe, then I get that extra kind of money. So that is a very bad incentive for overloading and speeding, which makes the minibus taxi inherently a bit of an unsafe system. Also for Metro Rail, for example, Metro Rail doesn't have nearly enough rolling stock, so we see overloading and we see kind of a low frequency, especially during peak periods, and which then leads to the overloading at the Metro Rail stations. Also for Metro Bus, for example, we see the Metro Bus, all the Metro buses have to merge with the normal traffic, so they're prone to the same congestion that you would experience when you're in your car. Now theoretically, if you're supposed to get into a BRT bus, you have right-of-way, you have a dedicated lane, you get on that system and you're supposed to travel much faster, and that bus is supposed to leave at a high frequency during peak periods and it's supposed to deliver you very safely and very easily at these stations, which is every 750 meters along on the trunk route.
Now this system is to start operating on the 30th of August. Will the City of Johannesburg meet this deadline? I mean, it has been delayed.
Well, the city is very positive that they will. Of course, the system was supposed to be ready for the Confederations Cup earlier this year, but we had a bit of a logistical problem also, and we had the massive protest by the taxi operators. They very much set against the system, a lot of them, not all of them. So, but the city seems positive that they will be ready. They have 143 buses ready for Phase 1A, which is supposed to kick in. That's supposed to run from Soweto to Alice Park. We have 4 stations remaining out of 27. That's all the stations that need to be finished. We have 25.5 kilometers of trunk route, and the buses are being licensed, the drivers are being trained, so everything looks set to start on August the 30th.
You mentioned the protest that the taxi operators staged this year, but are the taxis really a threat to this system?
I'd say the biggest threat definitely to BRT system is definitely the taxi operators. We see in Port Elizabeth, for example, the system is not going to be ready for 2010 for the World Cup, simply because the taxis are refusing to operate within this BRT system. Because of course what happens now is we have 575 taxi operators which are going to be displaced by the BRT system in Johannesburg. So what happens now is they have to buy into a bus operating company, and they have to be the drivers of this BRT system, the actual physical drivers of the buses, to buy into this bus operating company, to share in some of the profits. Phase 1A is supposed to deliver about 158 million Rand income a year. Of course, the taxis are very much set against this. They're very scared for job losses. They're scared losing their kind of way of life and their industry being in trouble. But and we all know the taxi industry in South Africa, that it's not formalized. I mean, they didn't have minimum wage until very recently, and even that is a struggle to implement at the moment, just to legalize the taxis as well. We have a big problem that they're very set against the system, and what will happen if they again decide to stand up against the system in Johannesburg. But I do think it's very important for taxis to realize that everybody in South Africa deserves a very safe public transport system. And whether you're an accountant or whether you're a sales assistant, you deserve to get a public transport system that works, that's clean and safe. And the BRT system can definitely deliver that. And I do think that the taxis must just kind of really wake up and buy into the system and become the operators of the system. But yes, they're definitely a threat. And if they decide to, again, stand up against the system, we're again going to have problems, because government seems unable to push the taxis into buying into the system, as we can see in Port Elizabeth.
Let's talk about cost just before we wrap up. How much will it cost if, say, I catch this bus in Soweto and drive all the way to Ellis Park? What sort of fares are we talking about?
Well, theoretically, that should cost you about R8 to do that. Well, the system will also operate in the Joburg CBD as part of Phase 1A, and that will cost you R3 to get around in the CBD. The feeder system is about R3 as well. Just catching the trunk route is R5, and then a mix between the feeder and the complementary, or the feeder and the trunk route is R8 ticket. So it's very low cost compared to taxis or any other kind of public transport at the moment. The system will start off with paper tickets and will then move to smart card system. Hopefully that will be the same smart card that you can also then just transfer over to the Gautrain. So we're kind of seeing a merging of public transport systems in South Africa where you can pay with one card, which would be a very good system. Of course, also on the BRT system, it's cashless. So the driver, there's no money changing hand between the drivers and the passengers. That's not supposed to happen. That's adding to the speed of the system. You simply get on the bus, swipe a card, and get off, and there's no money changing hands, change being dealt out to people or anything like that. So, yeah, smart card system, hopefully that can be implemented by 2010.
Irma, thank you very much, and thanks for joining us on Second Take. That's the show for today. Thank you for watching, and join us again next week for more news analysis.